Hello, hello, hello. I am Benjamin Brooks, Assistant Director of Policy with the Whitman-Walker Institute. Hello. Let's go live with Ibukun. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me properly?
I've got a lot of fuzz coming through. Is it me or you? Do you hear it? It's
Not
gone.
really. Is it gone? Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to put my phone like this.
I've got mine kind of delicately resting against my computer screen.
Okay. Can you still hear the sound?
Nope, it seems like it's gone.
Okay, awesome. Here, let me try one more time because it's more comfortable. Can you hear it now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Can you hear it now?
Nope.
Okay. Oh, yeah. It's because of my laptop.
Oh no. Is it? Oh, it's the fan of the laptop?
Yeah. But I was setting my phone on my laptop. But what I'll just do is just hold it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say from well, you've done these before, so you know not to cover up the microphone on your phone by your
Yeah.
fingers.
I feel like I'm good. I think so.
Nice. Okay, I've pinned the comment, so the hardest parts are done. We are here.
Okay.
We are live.
Awesome.
All right.
We can start in like 1 minute, I guess, if you
Yeah,
want.
give some people a
Give people
chance.
time to join. Yes.
Everybody's getting off of their break. Or getting onto their break. They're ready to eat lunch and learn some stuff. Have you eaten yet today?
Not yet. Not yet. I'm gonna eat after.
Are you in the rooms on the other side with
With the
the
color, yeah. Like
yeah,
the
that's a great
conference
place
room.
to be.
Yeah. And you can see outside. I mean, it looks a little gloomy right now, but
Yeah. I had to find a room with good light or else I would
Are
just
you in Liz right now?
yeah,
Oh, okay,
we
okay.
could be in the same screen if
Yeah.
we No, this is good. This is good. Our viewers think we're all in cyberspace together.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice. Hey Brandon.
Hi,
Brendan, nice to see you
Brandon.
there.
Nice to see you.
Nice little wave. Boom.
Yeah. Let's see.
All right. I'm is your mom gonna join us like mine will? Nice. Ooh. Oh, okay. Looks like we lost Ibukun, but she's gonna come back. Please hold. Let's see. Let's try it again. Yes.
Sorry,
Welcome
I
back.
don't know what happened, but I'm back.
We'll work with it. We'll
Back.
fix it in post.
Yes.
This business.
Yes.
All right. What do you
You all
think?
set?
Are we ready?
I think so. Let's go ahead and start talking abortion.
Do you want to kick it off?
Uh, yes, I can. All right, so before we start, I just have to say some things. So during the past few months, the Whitman-Walker Community Health Department has expanded its outreach efforts to the social media platform. So we've covered various topics from HIV to STI sexual health practices. We talk about access to care. We talk about the social determinants of health. We talk about everything COVID. And today we're actually going to be talking about the recent abortion ban that was placed in Texas. So let me just introduce myself. I'm Ibukun. I use she, her pronouns. And I am the social media coordinator and HIV tester here at Whitman-Walker. And I have Ben here with me And Ben, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Benjamin Brooks. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the Assistant Director of Policy with the Whitman-Walker Institute, which is the research education policy arm of the Whitman-Walker Health System family of companies. I just wanted to say, because you have here to talk about the relationship to the topic, and abortion and the abortion arguments and policies were really my first introduction to policy. I grew up in a very conservative family and community, and many people in my community are part of those sort of crisis pregnancy centers that sort of purport to help women in pregnancies, but actually are just trying to convince people to not get abortions. And so the way that we were talking and engaging about abortions when I was a young kid really seemed to not match the reality of people's reproductive health care needs. And so this is a topic that's very close to my heart, and I'm really glad we're talking about it today.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, similar to you, this is a abortion is something I learned a lot about during college. I ended up doing a thesis paper on queer maternal health, and abortions were a large portion of my paper. So I've done a lot of research that goes into and learning about what goes into all these laws and learning who's making these policies and who's not, whose voices aren't being heard. So I'm really excited to talk to you about that today. Um, so I guess before, just so we can get started, Ben, could you just tell us what is going on with this law, and can you explain to us what the Texas state government did?
Yes. So essentially, the Senate and the House in Texas passed a bill which went
Mm-hmm.
into effect on September 1st in Texas that bans all abortions once a fetal heartbeat is detected. So in most cases, this is as early as 6 weeks. So this is the first part of the law, which I'm going to comment on, and then we'll talk about the second part. The first part is blatantly unconstitutional, right? We have
Mm-hmm.
this constitutional right to abortion access that is created and set forth in the case that many folks are sort of recognize Roe v. Wade. And Roe v. Wade kind of establishes a framework that protects a woman's right to access abortion, sorry, a person's right to access abortion up until what's sort of called fetal viability, which is when the fetus can survive on its own. But up until when the fetus can survive, a person has the right to exercise control over their own bodies. So this 6-week law is flagrantly unconstitutional, which, to be fair, in conservative states with a lot of conservative lawmakers, it actually has become a fairly common practice for them to pass these very restrictive laws. And then because they're unconstitutional, they're never applied. So it becomes a kind of political showboating for state senators and representatives to support and pass these laws. What's new in this law is the second part, which is that the law says that anyone who aids, abets, is involved with, funds, transports, makes an appointment for an abortion that occurs after 6 weeks or after fetal heartbeat can be sued by individual members of the community, right? So this isn't like the police enforcing the law. This is your neighbors enforcing the law. And so this means that the Texas state lawmakers are asking people to spy on and sue their neighbors. This is really not a normal feature of our laws in the United States. This is a very abnormal development that is intentionally designed to sort of go around the normal court proceedings and the way that courts understand how to challenge these unconstitutional abortion laws. This is, in fact, why it was very highly publicized. The appeals to this law went before the Supreme Court fairly quickly because the law was supposed to go into effect on September 1st, and so you want to make sure your challenge gets in before the a law goes into effect, so people still have access, right? I'm sorry, it's a little complicated, but we're almost at
Okay.
it. So the appeal was on how to properly challenge the law and not on the law itself. And so this is why the law was allowed to go into effect by the Supreme Court. However, just on Wednesday, 2 days ago, a
Mm-hmm.
Texas state judge blocked the law. The judge blocked the law, saying that it was flagrantly unconstitutional, and instead of worrying about how they were going to stop individual citizens from trying to enforce the law, the judge stopped the Texas state courts from accepting the cases, which is a great and I think a smart legal intervention to stop the law from going into effect. So just to say that there's one part of this law that is flagrantly unconstitutional, that's pretty normal, and then there's another part of the law that was very strange and I think incredibly dangerous, because we don't want to encourage sort of people to spy on their neighbors to try to enforce abortion laws, right? Okay, so that's me.
No,
Sorry.
that was a great explanation. And basically, what I got from that was this law just completely infringes on a person's individual right to practice autonomy over their reproductive health, and also invites others to infringe on their privacy and their decisions. So, yeah, this law is very wrong. And I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just stunningly bad in the way that we think about scary, uh, like societies where neighbors are spying on neighbors and reporting them to the authorities, and this is sort of antithetical to an sort of American ideals of individual liberty and freedom. So I'm shocked to see this kind of law come out of Texas as well.
Yeah. So we know that laws do not affect every person the same. And I think that's particularly true about abortion laws. So could you tell us about what kinds of people do you foresee this law disproportionately affecting more than other groups?
Yeah, yeah. So first, obviously, I will say clearly this law will be devastating to everyone who has reproductive capacity and doesn't want to have children, right? So, in fact, many people find it very difficult to tell at 6 weeks if they're pregnant, especially if they don't have strong education on reproductive health, which of course is fairly common for people not to have good education on reproductive health in the United States because we don't mandate it in schools. But the law also requires people who are pregnant past 6 weeks and still want access on abortion to travel out of state to obtain reproductive health care. So that limits access to those who can afford to travel and take time off work and have supportive networks around them who can help them. This limits access because abortions are already expensive. And so if you have to schedule out of state, it takes longer to get it, and the abortion becomes more expensive the later term that it is, right? So with all of these challenges, I really expect that this law is going to disproportionately affect low-income individuals, people with lower levels of education, and people, of course, in Black and Brown communities who live further away from abortion providers and have more difficulties accessing insurance and healthcare.
Yeah, I completely agree with the types of individuals that will be affected. And I think when I think about who's going to be like affected the worst, I often think about the people that are at the intersection of these identities, and oppressing identities, specifically individuals that identify as both Black and queer. I think they are at a very strong disadvantage. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think many times people forget that LGBTQ people really do, and like, although we'd like to think that we don't regularly engage in sexual activity that could result in pregnancy, many people do, and many LGBTQ people do, and especially bisexual women and transgender men need access to reproductive health care. It is especially important for queer families because medical providers often rely on assumptions about trans and queer people, and if they lack cultural competency, sometimes fail to support the reproductive goals of their queer patients. And so there are just so many reasons why LGBTQ people need this kind of care, and this is why Whitman-Walker cares about this issue.
Yeah, I agree. Cisgender heterosexual women are not the only people being affected by this law. Really, anyone that has the ability to reproduce is affected by this law. And in fact, it's actually been found that sexual minorities have a higher chance than compared to other women experiencing unwanted pregnancy due to the sexual violence that they face at rates of a factor of 15 or more. And since we know how harmful this law is, why do you think the law was even created?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, it's interesting to sort of try to query the mind of the legislator, which is not an easy thing to do, right? These laws are often created because they're sort of seen as a solution to a health crisis or a problem, and in particular for people that think that abortion is a very big problem, right?
Yeah, but it's just kind of confusing because abortions are these one of the safest medical procedures in the U.S. And when they're done illegally, that's when it becomes dangerous. So you would think, knowing that we know just how safe abortions is, or how safe abortions are, the government would want to protect the people by not making it illegal and then causing people to do them in unsafe, not hygienic manners.
Yeah, and that's one of the lessons from history that we learn is that when you make abortions illegal and hard to access, it just makes them dangerous, right? And it means that it's more difficult for poor people to access them. So as a policy analyst, I think the law is primarily designed to intimidate abortion providers in the state of Texas and make it too expensive and costly for them to continue to provide services. One of the features of the law that we didn't talk about earlier is that the individuals in the communities can bring a case against the healthcare clinic or the doctor or the driver, right? And if they win an award of $10,000. And so this is designed to make it incredibly expensive and risky for abortion providers to continue to operate.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially designed to bully them into being too afraid to continue their services. It is incredibly unfortunate that healthcare organizations are being policed and restricted by laws like this.
Yeah, I agree. That's really that's really sad to hear. But I guess we can now segue into why we're even talking about this at Whitman-Walker. So let's discuss why we're talking about this problem and why the other people watching us today should care as well. And also, we'll also talk about what you guys can do to fight against this issue and just to, yeah.
Yeah. So another reason why we care, right, is because healthcare clinics that offer abortion services also offer other kinds of reproductive health care like STI screenings and treatments, right? HIV treatments, HIV care. So due to this sort of set of services that are particularly important to sexual and gender minorities, Planned Parenthoods, the clinics in Texas that are called Whole Women's Health, they become the place to go for queer people to access health care, and they become a safe place that for the LGBTQ community to access healthcare without fear of judgment or discrimination. They often have a high degree of cultural competency for underserved populations. And it's just really important to note that historically, LGBTQ people have faced oppression regarding our access to childbirth, right? And so this law specifically attacks those places that have been curated and created and built by members of the LGBT community.
Yeah, I also think it's important to note that there's a duality and similarity between both movements, both between the reproductive justice movement
Mm-hmm.
and the LGBTQ equality movement. They both stem for the fight over the fight for control over one's autonomy over their body. They're both fighting, like at the core of both issues, they both come from having the ability to control your own body and the way you live, the way you present yourself. So it would be wrong for an organization like ours to just sit on the same sidelines just watching this law completely and loudly infringe on the reproductive rights of the same people that we serve. Because we not only serve the LGBTQ community, we also serve heterosexual individuals that come into Whitman-Walker all the time for services. So I think it would have just been really wrong for us to stay silent, because the people who are being affected are our people, our community, and the people we are serving.
Yeah, absolutely. We are against this kind of discrimination in all its forms. This is the same kind of sort of the state trying to exert control over our bodily autonomy that we see in the bills trying to restrict access to gender-neutral bathrooms for transgender people, trying to restrict access to sports for young trans people in schools. This is why Whitman-Walker joins lawsuits against the rules promulgating discriminatory policies among healthcare institutions, right? We are joining an amicus brief against a really similar law in Mississippi that bans abortion after 15 weeks that's going before the Supreme Court. So this is a form of sex discrimination that I think Whitman-Walker is very familiar with, and is sort of a fight that we've been in for a really long time.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about why we should care and why we care, let's just talk about the ways you can support, tangible ways that people watching can actually support individuals that have been affected by this law. Do you know of any ways that we could share with the people watching us today?
Yes, absolutely. And I think we'll just go back to say a lot of the things that this law does is make it a lot more expensive for people to access the services. And so a lot of the ways that we help is by donating our money. And so we have a list of funds here that people can donate to that actively support abortion access in Texas. I'm going to ask Ibukun to post in the chat if we can. So the first is the Lilith Fund for Reproductive Equity. The next one is called the Bunny Buckle Fund. The next one we have here is the AFIA Center. And then finally, the ACLU of Texas. So all of these organizations in some capacity support the individual right to abortions in Texas.
Yeah, so actually what we'll do is after the live is posted, I will post it in the caption.
Oh, gorgeous.
Yes, because it's a little bit harder to post the links right now, but we'll keep it in the caption. That way, even if you're not able to donate today, but you find that in the next 2 weeks you're able to donate, you have access to those websites. So thank you so much for sharing those. Another thing that I found that is, important when we're trying to advocate for these laws to just be demolished, is amplifying the voices of those that are affected by the law. Like we mentioned earlier, the people who are affected by this law are typically not the people making the laws, because obviously they wouldn't exist if, they had a seat at the table. So one thing I would suggest for people is to share the voices. So if you ever run into a video of someone, sharing their experiences, sharing their story, sharing how this law has affected them, a repost could like you reposting it is not, it might seem like a really small thing, but you've just expanded the network of people that have been able to learn and be able to hear from that voice. And also, like, we're here on an Instagram live, you could share our videos with people, you could share our resources with people. So just giving people the platform to share their stories will bring more attention to this public health issue and hopefully catalyze the change that we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Elevating the voices of those most impacted and marginalized is absolutely the way to go. And there are many people in Texas that are speaking out against this horrific situation that the Texas state legislature has created.
Yeah. Well, we don't really have anything else to add, but if anyone watching has any questions, could you please leave them in the chat and we can just answer them before we head out. This was a really, really important conversation. I'm really glad you guys joined us. So if you have any questions, please leave it in the chat and we'll see.
Let's see. We've got a couple props for you in the chat. Way to go.
Oh, thank you, Brendan.
Nice. I don't see any questions yet.
Okay, we can just wait a few more seconds. And if there are no questions, that's okay too. That means we did a good job. Um, okay. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions. So I just want to say thank you so much, Ben, for bringing all your legal knowledge and really breaking down this complicated law and unconstitutional law down to us in a way that we can understand. So I really appreciate you for joining us today. Um, but do you have any last words to say before I close us off?
No, I'm really glad to be invited to this space with you. Thank you for including me, and I can't wait to
Thank
talk to you again
you.
soon.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, so before we go, I always have to give us a few reminders about COVID-19 and the vaccines. So if you've already been vaccinated, congrats. You've taken a really important step to protecting yourself and the people around you. As you know, the Delta variant, along with other variants, are still soaring around the US. So we completely understand if you choose to still wear your mask. So we recommend you continue staying vigilant and stay alert. And if you haven't been vaccinated and you are looking for an appointment, we just want to let you know that Whitman-Walker does offer the COVID-19 vaccine. So if you know anyone that is ages 12 and up, they're eligible for a vaccine. And you can reach us at 202-207-2480 to make an appointment. And if you're having problem reaching out to us, but you live in DC, the number you can call to make an appointment is 1-855-363-0333. If you live in Maryland, you can call 855-634-6829. And if you're a Virginia resident, you can call 877-829-4682. And if you haven't been vaccinated and you are not looking for an appointment, we urge you to still continue following the CDC guidelines, such as wearing your mask, quarantining when necessary, social distancing, and just taking the safety precautions that the CDC has recommended. And also another thing we want to urge you to do is have conversations with the people around you about their COVID precautionary measures, because you don't know if the person next to you has been vaccinated or not. So just stay vigilant as well. And finally, if you want to support Whitman-Walker, a way you can is by donating and participating in our Walk to End HIV that's occurring on October 23rd. So you can sign up at walktoendhiv.org, and it's a free walk. And this is really important to us this year. I mean, it's important every year, but this year is important because it's the 35th anniversary. So you definitely want to be a part of this. And finally, like we said before, amplifying voices is an amazing way to support people. So we would love if you could follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and it's all at Whitman-Walker. You can just search up Whitman-Walker and you'll find us. And if you have any questions about our services, you can call us at 202-797-4439. So thank you so much for joining us today again, Ben. We really appreciate you being on this platform with us. And thank you everyone for joining. And we will see you next week for another Instagram Live.
All right. My pleasure.
Thank
Bye,
you so
everyone.
much. Bye.
See you.
Ben, can you save it, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. All
Bye.
right, bye.